To our second annual Jeff Baseball Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Before we get started, one thing I have to say, Coach Miller, our wrestling coach, it's his quote, "It's a great day to be a Bronco." Also, thanks, where'd Peyton go to? Peyton Stovall, there you are. Stand up, Peyton. Thanks, Peyton Stovall, our athletic director. Thanks for helping us get this started. To the committee, which I'm a member of, and also on that committee, Coach Fields. Head Coach Scott McTaggart. Assistant Coach Sean Johns. Also Jim Olds. And also on that committee are two people sitting up here, Jack Walkie and Mark Strader. Last year, I told you we took in 20-some individuals, and I think we have a few of those guys with us here today. I saw Larry Vanderwellen. Larry, where are you? There he is. Eddie Bender was supposed to come. Eddie, are you here? There's Eddie. Of course, Coach Spider Fields. My mother, Lois Olds, who represents my dad, Harry Olds. And then last but not least, this gentleman, unfortunately last year when we did this ceremony, could not be with us. But he came all the way from Sanibel Island to be with us today. And that's Jim Sprankle. Jim, would you stand up, please? If you'll oblige me, I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to read the bio that we read for you last year. Jim played baseball for the Broncos, graduating in '52. In both '51 and '52, we were North Central Conference champs. He was a pitcher, a renowned pitcher, and in one game against Kokomo in '52, he had 19 strikeouts. He was inducted into the Jefferson High School Alumni Hall of Fame in 2001. His summer baseball history goes back to the days before we had the Pony Baseball Organization. He was on the Linwood Grade School City Champs in 47 and 48. After high school, Jim signed a professional contract with the old Brooklyn Dodgers and had 11 years of minor league pro baseball. He was called up, as I understand, for the '55 World Series. I think you got to sit in the dugout, didn't you? Yes. He was quoted as saying he signed a $25,000 bonus with the Dodgers. He goes, "I'll never have to work again." But that wasn't the end of his fame. Probably better known today, he is a well-known international celebrity for wood carvings of waterfowl and birds. And in, I believe, 2004, he got to present one of his life-size American Eagle sculpture called Freedom Fighter to President Bush in the White House. He has permanent exhibits across the country and has won numerous awards and honors in this area of expertise. And for a complete picture of how renowned he is, go to sprankle.com to view his website. And on there you'll see everything he's done. And I looked at it the other day and it's unbelievable. Lastly, I did pull up, Jim, some of your minor league stats. And in 11 years, he was 49 and 62 with a 4.42 ERA. Does that sound about right? Ladies and gentlemen, last year's inductee, but here today, Jim Sprinkle. Now we'll get started with this year's class, and I would ask for those of you who are here, once I'm done reading your bio, if you would come up to the table and receive your plaque from Coach Fields. First is a longtime person who is obviously not with us today. His name is Robert Stewart, and he was in the class of 1924. We found some records on Robert, and they are as follows. In 1924, he had 21 strikeouts in a game against West Lafayette. He had an 11-0 record that year and had 143 strikeouts for the 24 season. For his career, which was 22 through 24, he had 351 strikeouts and an ERA of .66. At that time, Jeff, that year was 17-0 and mythical state champs, obviously long before the tournament. And then they went on to play. Coach Fields found this out. They defeated Chicago-Austin that year for a mythical national championship. So the Broncos were national champs at 24. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Stewart. We're hoping that we hear from a distant relative so that someone can take his plaque, but as of right now, we don't know who that is. Our second person is a longtime contributor to Jeff Baseball and still resides here in Lafayette, Harry Bradway. Harry is a longtime fan and supporter of the Broncos. For several years, he was our PA announcer at Lowe Stadium, while also covering the Broncos sports on both radio and television. In summer baseball, Harry is probably best known for not only for his contribution to the success of Jeff Baseball through his involvement both as coach and president of our Lafayette Colt League for numerous years. And I think a few of these guys played for him in the Colt League. He helped to develop several varsity players and won numerous league titles. He is best known for bringing the Colt World Series to Lafayette in 1969, where it has stayed ever since, with the exception of 1972, 1 year. In his youth, he played summer baseball in Akron, Indiana. Originally from Akron, Harry never had his own family, but opened his house up to a handful of people who he gave a helping hand in their lives at critical times. His working career includes stops at both WASK Radio and WLFI TV-18 here in Lafayette, where he was the sports anchor for several years. In addition to the Colt League duties, Harry also coached CYO basketball for years at St. Lawrence Parish. During the 60s and 70s, he also covered Purdue football and basketball games. Harry's best memory of Jeff Baseball is being able to cover both the 69 and 73 state championship games and watching the Broncos win. Ladies and gentlemen, Harry Bradley. Our second inductee, unfortunately, could not be with us today. In addition to this, he is currently in ill health and lives in Fort Wayne, but one of his best lifelong friends, Coach Fields, will represent him. Our next inductee is Bill Hicks, class of 1944. Bill was a 3-year letterman playing shortstop, and the Broncos were the North Central champs in 1943. Bill played for the Jeff Booster team and Eagles team both in the Lafayette Industrial League. He also played for American Legion Post 11. After high school, Bill was on the Purdue roster as a second baseman for 4 years following his World War II duties, where he was a member of the Marine Corps. While on active duty, he was wounded in action and received the Purple Heart accommodation. Bill has been married for 61 years to Barbara, and they have 5 children, 14 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. Bill coached basketball from 1953 to 59 at Fort Wayne Central Catholic High School, and then he was a realtor from 59 through 1989. Bill was also a member of Post 11's basketball team in 47 and 48, and in 48 they were the American Legion state champs and lost in the national semifinals. Bill also coached Little League baseball and youth basketball in Fort Wayne. His best memory was he was always proud of being a Bronco. Again, represented by Coach Spider Fields, our inductee, Bill Hicks. Our next inductee in the class of 1953 is Joe Heath. Joe was a pitcher and an outfielder for the Broncos. He also played in the summer for American Legion Post 11 and the Lafayette Columbians. Joe played baseball at Purdue from 1956 through 58, and during those summers he helped coach Little League teams here in Lafayette. Joe was married to fellow Jeff grad Sally, and they had 4 daughters. He coached basketball and baseball at Francisville, Winnemac, Elwood, before coming to Jeff in 1967 to be our head basketball coach. He was the head coach through 1978. During that period, Joe also helped as an assistant on the baseball team. He also coached girls golf for a short period of time. In 1978, Joe became the athletic director for the Broncos, and in 1998, he became principal of the high school. Joe is the only person in the state of Indiana history to have been a student athlete, coach, athletic director, and principal at the same school. Joe played basketball at Xavier from 1953 through 55 before a leg injury ended his basketball career. He was inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame in 1993, was named the Midwest Athletic Director of the Year in 1994, and was inducted into the Jefferson High School Alumni Hall of Fame in 2002. His best memory is the 69 state champs. Joe today is being represented by his brother, Dave Heath. Joe unfortunately passed away in March of 2002. So again, being represented by brother Dave, our inductee is Joe Heath. Our next inductee is in the class of 1961, Bill Wiley. Unfortunately, Bill could not be here today. He had prior engagements. Bill resides in Palo Alto, California. Bill played 3 years for the varsity in the outfield, third base, and first base. He was team captain as well as second team all-conference in his senior year. The Broncos were 15 and 5 overall and 6 and 3 in the NCC. Bill played from Little League through American Legion ball during his summer years here in Lafayette. He then played 3 years at Purdue after high school and also played semi-pro ball, 1 summer in New York and 1 in New Jersey. After graduating from Purdue, Bill went on to graduate school at the University of Minnesota and stayed there for 23 years working as an administrator and teacher. In 1988, he left Minnesota and went to Stanford University, where he retired in 2005. After his retirement, he then volunteered as an algebra teacher for 7 years at a local Catholic school in Palo Alto. Bill and his wife Judy have been married 47 years. They have 2 children, 2 grandchildren, and Bill has ran in several marathons and 10K races until his body parts said enough. His best memory was just playing with a great group of guys, some of whom he still is in contact with after 50 years. He is truly honored to be included in the Jeff Baseball Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Wilder. Our next inductee is from the class of 1962. That's Mike Purvis. Mike resides in Heritage Lake, Indiana. Mike played 3 years with the varsity. He was a backup player in 1960 as an outfielder and pitcher. In 61 and 62, Mike was the ace of the staff. He was the MVP and leading hitter in 61. In 1962, Mike no-hit Logansport and one hit both Muncie Central and Newcastle. He was all North Central Conference in both years and was the co-MVP of the conference in 62. Mike had an 8-7 career record with a 1.19 ERA. He had 150 strikeouts in 103 innings. Mike played Colt and American Legion for Post 11. He also joined the Lafayette Columbians in 1962. While playing 4 years for the Columbians, the team won 2 CIBL state championships. Mike then went on to pitch 2 years for Purdue, with the highlight of being a 3-hit, 1-run win against Minnesota, who went on to win the NCAA College World Series that year. In 1965, Mike signed with the LA Dodgers and went to the Florida State League. In 1966, he was at Ogden in the Rookie League and was an All-Star, and then was at Dubuque, Iowa in 1967. Mike has 2 children. He has a 16-year working stint with Kirk and Blum and 10 years as a business manager. Currently with Aggregate Processing of Louisville, he resides in Heritage Lake, Indiana with his wife, Karen. Mike coached the Urbana, Illinois All-Stars to their first Babe Ruth championship, and he is currently teaching pitching to players aged 9 through 14. His best memory was Mike's last game of his high school career. He pitched a 3-hit shutout and homered for the only run of the game on the day after the prom. He says not sure anyone but he enjoyed that game. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Purvis. Our next inductee from the class of 1962 as well was Dave Stormont. In 1960, Dave moved here from Princeton, Indiana, and he was the starting shortstop for the 61 and 62 Broncos. Dave had a career .344 batting average and hit .399 in his senior year while being named MVP of the 16 and 5 Broncos. Dave played both American Legion Post 11 and Lafayette Columbians baseball during the summer. Dave was a union cement finisher and later self-employed as a finisher. Dave was married to Teresa and has 3 daughters and 2 stepsons and has 5 grandchildren. Dave also led her twice in both basketball and football at Jeff. And per Dave's mom, Edith, who's with us today, Dave's mother says his highlight was his first at bat as a Bronco when he hit a home run. Put him in the lineup right there. He's been represented today by both his wife, Teresa, and his mother, Edith. Unfortunately, Dave passed away in November of 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, Teresa Stormont for Dave Stormont. Our next inductee is from the class of 1964. Ladies and gentlemen, Denny Brady. Denny resides in Noblesville. Denny played 3 years for the Broncos, 62 through 64. He excelled at pitching, hitting, and playing the outfield. As a pitcher, Denny had a career record of 17-2 with an ERA of .77 and 226 strikeouts in 137 innings. Denny's ERA of .1 in 1963 is the 3rd lowest in Jeff history and his career ERA is the 5th lowest as well. He is 6th in all-time career strikeouts and hurled 1 no-hitter. At the plate, Denny had a career average of .399 while hitting .437 in 1963, which is the 7th highest for season average. His career average is 5th highest. He is also 10th in RBIs with 69, 3rd in doubles with 25, and tied for 4th in home runs with 8. Denny was voted MVP of the North Central Conference in 1964. His summer baseball history included playing from Little League through Pony through Colt and American Legion ball. In 1964, he was on the state runner-up Legion team. Denny also played for the Lafayette Columbians and Kokomo Highlanders, who won the state amateur tourney and went to the national finals. Denny played 2 years of baseball at Purdue and then signed with the Cleveland Indians. He had a few years in the minors before an injury ended his pro opportunity prematurely. Denny has worked over 25 years at State Farm in catastrophic services, and he retired from there in June of 2014. He and his wife Myrna have 5 children and 10 grandchildren. Denny coached basketball at Attica High School for 3 years. Additionally, his baseball prowess was maybe matched by his basketball career. He was a member of the '63 state finalist team and then the 1964 state basketball champs, and then was named Indiana's Mr. Basketball. He then went on to play 2 years of varsity at Purdue before leaving for pro baseball. Best memory for Denny was winning the NCC and hanging out with my teammates. But most enjoyable memory was playing for Coach Fields, the greatest coach I ever had. Ladies and gentlemen, Denny Brady. Next inductee is again from the class of 1964, and it is Dave Fleckleitner. And Dave resides in Longwood, Florida now. Dave, turn around. Dave played for the Broncos as a catcher, outfielder from 62 through 64. Leck was all NCC in 1964. He was a career .329 hitter and hit .393 in 1963. Additionally, he was 3-0 on the mound for the 64 Broncos. Like most players in this era, Dave played all the summer leagues throughout his youth and was again on the '64 American Legion state runner-up team. Dave played both football and baseball at Indiana State, and while there was president of the All Sports Varsity Letterman's Club, and as he said, including ping pong and horseshoes. He also played semi-pro ball for the Lafayette Columbians and Kokomo Highlanders. Leck has been married twice and says he's still looking. Is that right? He has 3 daughters and 1 son and 7 grandchildren. His work career includes running the Lafayette tennis bubble for Don Stein, racing as an amateur stock car driver in Central Florida for 15 years, and then self-employed as an owner of a printing company for 39 years. Dave also coached tennis and girls softball. His best memory of Jeff baseball is making the team, because not everyone did. He goes, "We were that good." Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Fleckleitner. Our next inductee is from the class of '64. This is going to get repetitive. And that is Mike McGreevy. And Mike currently resides in San Antonio, Texas. Tank, as all of us remember him, Tank played 3 years as catcher for the Broncos from 62 through 64. He was a .310 career hitter, highlighted by .377 with 5 home runs, which is 4th most in a single season, and 26 RBIs in his senior year. He was all North Central Conference in '64. Like everyone else, Mike played at all levels of summer baseball and was an all-star at each level. And he too was a member of the '64 American Legion team that finished the state runner-up. Tank was part of the Purdue freshman team in '65 and the varsity in '66. He also played one season for the Lafayette Columbians. Mike and his wife Beverly have 3 daughters. He has worked for the New Zealand Forest Research Institute, the Boise, Cascade in Washington, Chile, Boise, and Baltimore. He received his B.S. cum laude degree from Purdue in '69, his master's from the University of British Columbia in '72, his MBA from Gonzaga in '91, and graduated from the Washington Ag Forestry Leadership Program in '97. Mike played 3 years of football and 2 years of wrestling at Jeff, while wrestling for 1 year at Purdue. And get this, while in New Zealand, he played 3 years of league and 3 years of union rugby. No wonder we called him Tank. His best memory of Jeff was in his junior year. They were 21-2. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Tank McGreevy. And again, our next inductee is from the class of 1964, and it is Randy Slickers. Randy currently resides in Twin Falls, Idaho. Randy played 3 years as a pitcher and third baseman for the Broncos from '62 through '64. He had a career 13-1 record with a 1.65 ERA and was all North Central Conference in '64. He threw a no-hitter in the '62 season and had 16 strikeouts in 1 game in 1963. Randy, like everyone else, played at all levels of summer baseball from Little League through Colt League, and he too was a member of the '64 American Legion State runner-up team. Randy attended Wabash College and played football and baseball while there. Randy and his wife Jane have been married 48 years, 49 in June, have 2 sons and 2 granddaughters. And Randy is recently retired as a physician, where for 40 years in Twin Falls, Idaho, he specialized in family medicine. Randy also played football at Wabash and has coached T-ball and pitching machine baseball for 5 to 8-year-olds. And we were talking earlier, and I think both Jack Walkie and Dave Knott's in the room, they've had their hands under your rear end for a long time. He was the center for Jack here and the center for Dave Knott at Wabash. His best memory was winning the North Central Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, Randy Slickers. And our last inductee from the class of '64 is Jack Walkie. And Jack currently resides here in Lafayette. Jack was a 4-year starter at shortstop for the Broncos. He was co-captain and all North Central Conference in both '63 and '64. Jack led the team in hitting his senior year with a .435 average and was voted MVP of the team. His .435 average is 8th highest single season in Bronco history. His career average was .281, while he is tied for 7th in career runs scored at 81. Jack played all through the summer baseball and up through American Legion baseball during those years, just like everyone else. He played on league championship teams at each level, and again was a member of the '63 and '64 state finalist teams in American Legion. As part of the runner-up team in '64, he was named the first recipient of the A.D. Phillips Sportsmanship Award during the Legion State Finals. Additionally, he was on all the All-Star teams, starting for shortstop for 6 straight years throughout the levels of summer baseball. Jack has been married to the former Chris Gingrich, a '66 grad, since 1970, and they have 4 children who are all former athletes and graduates of Lafayette Jeff. They have 14 grandchildren with another one on the way. After graduating from, he put this in here, the Ohio State University in '68, Jack went on to graduate from Indiana University Maurer School of Law in 1971. He has been a partner in the Lafayette law firm of Ball Eggleston since 1971. Jack was a 2-year starting quarterback for the Broncos football team that went 9-1 in both seasons. He was also the starting point guard for the 63 Final Four and 64 state championship basketball teams. Jack then went on to play basketball at Ohio State and was a member of the '68 Buckeye NCAA Final Four team. His best memory of Jeff baseball, he said, "I remember how hard Spider worked us on the fundamentals, and believe me, the rest of us do too. I also remember him asking us after a Saturday game if we wanted to take the bat bag home with us over the weekend, a hint that he would have no objection if some of us wanted to practice on our own on Sunday. And one regret that we did not have a high school state baseball tournament in 1964. Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Walker. These last five players, like I said, were all members of the Broncos from '62 through '64. They were a collective 54-10 for those 3 seasons and won 2 North Central Conference titles. Obviously, as a class, they were very accomplished athletes and students. And had there been a high school baseball tournament, the Broncos quite possibly would have a 3rd state title as we sit here today. How about another hand for the '64 class? Our next inductee is from the class of 1966, and that is Steve Kirkpatrick. Steve currently resides in Naples, Florida. Steve started 3 years for the Broncos at first base and in left field and was co-captain in '66. He was a .371 career hitter, and that puts him 7th place all time on career average. Steve is tied in the record books for 4th for most home runs in the season with 5, and is tied for 4th with most career home runs at 8. Steve played at all levels of summer baseball, and he was an all-star at each level. He was a 2-year member of American Legion Post 11, and that team in 1966 were state runner-ups. At the state finals, Steve was voted the A.D. Phillips Sportsmanship Award. After Jeff, Steve went on to play 2 years of varsity baseball at Michigan State University. Currently living in Naples, he has been married 49 years to the former Kathy McCarthy, who's also a Jeff grad, and they have 3 children and 8 grandchildren. He received his BA in economics and an MBA in finance from Michigan State and started his work career with General Foods Corporation. He was also co-founder and board chair of both New Century Bank and Capital Mortgage Funding, and is currently co-founder and a managing member of No Check Payment Service. Steve attended Michigan State on a basketball scholarship playing from '66 through '70. He was also inducted into the 1991 Indiana High School Basketball Hall of Fame Silver Anniversary Team. And not one to sit around after his playing days, he has gone on to win individual golf championships at the TPC of Michigan, Dearborn Country Club, and Gray Oaks Country Club on numerous occasions. He has also won a tennis doubles champ at Gray Oaks Country Club. And he is currently playing in an over-age 55 baseball league in Naples. His best memory of Jeff baseball was the reaction of my Michigan State teammates when I showed them where I played high school baseball and basketball. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Kirkpatrick. Our next inductee is from the class of 1967, and that is Steve Flanagan. Steve currently resides in St. Petersburg, Florida. Steve was the starting second baseman for the Broncos from 65 through 67. He was co-captain in 66 and was a member of the NCC champs in 67. He led the 66 team in hitting with a 370 average and had a 289 career average. He's in the record books for 34 career stolen bases, which is tied for 7th all time. An accomplished infielder, he was part of the 67 defense, which committed only 18 errors in 28 games. He was an all-star at every level through junior pony, and cold leagues, and again, he too was a member of American Legion Post-11 teams in 66 and 67, with the 66 team being state runner-up. Steve then went on to letter 3 years with the Purdue baseball team. Steve has 1 daughter and 1 granddaughter. He taught at St. Petersburg Senior High School for 38 years, which is the longest stint ever in the history of that high school. He earned his undergraduate degree from Purdue and his master's degree from the University of South Florida. Steve also coached various sports teams in St. Petersburg for 30 years and was inducted into their Hall of Fame in 2014. He was also a member of the Broncos basketball varsity for 2 years, with the 67 team finishing as state runner-up. His best memory of Jeff baseball, this is funny, was Bobby Page scoring from first on a ground rule double at DeMott, and Steve Kirkpatrick getting hit on a pitch at Zionsville. I guess there's a story behind that. We were all friends, and what an amazing time to grow up in Lafayette. Nothing but good memories, and what a great team. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Flanagan. Our next inductee is also from the class of 67. Get used to 67 here. And that is Lauren Lancaster. And Lauren resides just outside of Frankfort, Indiana. Lauren played 3 years for the Broncos in right and left field. He had a 317 career average while hitting 365 his junior year and 314 his senior year. He was also a stellar defensive player in the outfield. He too played at all the different levels of youth baseball, which was highlighted by playing for Coach John Everly in the Colt League and winning the league championship in both years. He was also a member of American Legion Post-11 for 2 years and was a big factor in their state runner-up finish in 66. Lauren went on to Indiana State to play in 68, but again that year freshmen weren't eligible to play. Before he got a chance to play the following season, he was drafted by the U.S. military and went to Vietnam in 69. Lauren retired from A.E. Staley, which is Tate Line, in 2006. Married to Helen, Lauren has 2 sons and a stepson and stepdaughter. He also has 12 wonderful grandchildren. Lauren has umpired both high school and Little League baseball, and he says Little League is the best. His best memory of Jeff baseball was playing for Coach Fields and playing with such a great bunch of friends. Ladies and gentlemen, Lauren Lancaster. Our next inductee is again from the class of 67 and unfortunately could not be here today, and that is Steve McAdams. Steve resides currently in Waxhaw, North Carolina. Steve was a pitcher outfielder for the Broncos, seeing extensive action on the mound for 3 years. He was 7-2 in 65, 8-1 in 66, and 10-0 in 67 while throwing 2 no-hitters. His 25 career wins ranks him tied for 3rd in Jeff history. He has the 6th lowest single-season ERA at .30 and fourth lowest career ERA at .73. He pitched the sixth most innings in Bronco history with 172. Steve played at all levels of youth baseball and was a member of the American Legion Post-11 66 and 67 teams with the runner-up finish in 66. After high school, Steve attended the U.S. Air Force Academy, playing baseball while at the academy. Married to Lou, Steve has 3 daughters and 2 sons. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 68 through 71, stationed in Vietnam from 69 through 70. Following the military service, Steve graduated from IU and then the IU School of Medicine. He is a retired U.S. Navy captain of the Medical Corps. He practiced critical care and pulmonary medicine in Indianapolis and retired in 2012. His best memory of Jeff baseball, a lot of us remember this too, was Spider Fields rolling the field with heavy machinery as Bobby Page hit balls at him. And teammates who always supported one another. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve McAdams. Our next inductee is from the class of 1967, that's Bobby Page. Bobby started for 3 years in center field for the Broncos. He was all NCC and was the Booster Club Scholarship winner in 67. Bobby was the leading hitter on the team at .375 his sophomore season, a career 300 hitter. He is also in the record books for career runs scored at 79, which ties him for 9th. Season triples at 6, which ties him for 7th. Career triples at 16, which is number 1 in the record books. He is tied for 2nd with 74 career walks and tied for 7th on the career stolen base list with 34. Bobby was also a defensive standout as he ran down many deep flies in Lowe Stadium's big outfield. He started 73 consecutive games in his career for the Broncos. Bobby, too, played at all levels of Lafayette youth baseball and was an all-star at every step. He played 2 years for American Legion Post-11 and was part of the 66 state runner-up team. Bobby received a baseball scholarship to play at Indiana State University, where he played for 2 years. He also played 2 years of semi-pro ball for the Lafayette Columbians. Bobby and his wife Sandra have been married 44 years and have 3 sons. He has been working for 30 years and counting at Alcoa. Bobby wrestled for 2 years and played football for 1 year at Jeff. He was honorable mention All-State in football for the 10-0 mythical state championship Broncos. His best memory was playing center field for Spider Fields and winning 45 games in a row. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Page. Our next inductee is also from the class of 67, and that is Steve Reich. And Steve resides here in Lafayette. Steve was a 3-year starter at shortstop for the Broncos, a career .321 hitter. Steve was also a good eye at the plate as he is tied for 7th in single-season walks at 28 and is 8th in the record books with 63 career walks. He hit .348 in the 65 season and .363 in the 67 season. Like his middle infield partner, Steve Flanagan, Steve was a very good defensively at shortstop, as again, that team only committed 18 errors in 28 games. Steve played in Lafayette's Pony and Colt Leagues and was an all-star in both. He too was a member of American Legion Post-11 and the state runner-up team in 66. Steve played 1 year at Taylor University and was MVP leading hitter in all conference in that season. Steve is married to his wife, Sherry, and they have 3 children and just recently added their 5th grandchild to the fold. Steve was also a 3-year starter in basketball for the Broncos. He was co-MVP and all-NCC in his senior year and set the single-game scoring record with 39 points. He had over 1,000 points in his high school career, and the 67 team lost in the state championship game. He was inducted into the Indiana High School Basketball Hall of Fame on the silver anniversary team in 1992. He then played 2 years of basketball at Arizona State before transferring to Taylor, where he was leading scorer all-conference, all-district, and honorable mention All-American in both years. Steve also coached basketball as an assistant coach with both the boys, 86 through 91, and the girls, 92 through 95, here at Jeff. His best memory is winning 45 games in a row. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Roosh. Our next inductee is from the class of 67, and that is Mark Strader. And Mark resides here in Lafayette. Mark was a 3-year starter at catcher for the Broncos. In 1967, he was All-NCC, All-State, and MVP. He was a .342 career hitter with 72 runs scored, 79 hits, and 70 RBIs, which is 9th on the career record list. Mark hit .338, .342, and .357 in his 3 varsity seasons. Although he was a prolific hitter and batted in the 3-hole for obviously a very good team, Mark's reputation as a defensive catcher was legendary. Our best guess, without the aid of statistics, is that most teams did not run on the Broncos with Mark behind the plate. Mark was an all-star for every year he played Bronco through Colt, and he too was on the American Legion post-11 team that was a state runner-up in '66. The reason Mark only played 1 year of Legion ball was that in June of '67 he was drafted and signed by the Minnesota Twins. He was a catcher / first baseman in all or parts of 5 minor league seasons, playing at Sarasota, St. Cloud, Orlando, St. Petersburg, and Denver. With a right shoulder tear, his promising pro career was cut short. He then continued to play semi-pro ball with the Lafayette Columbians and Kokomo Highlanders. Mark taught and coached at Tecumseh and Jeff for 15 and a half years. For the next 17 years, he was owner-operator of 2 Pizza King franchises. Mark has 2 children and 5 grandchildren. Mark was also an assistant coach for the Broncos from '73 through '75, during which Jeff won the 1973 state championship. He was then head coach from 1976 through 1986, finishing with a record of 256 and 88 for a .744 winning percentage. That's not too shabby. Mark also coached 8th grade football and basketball at Tecumseh from '74 through '90. During his high school days, Mark was a quarterback on the football team for 3 years and was MVP, All-North Central Conference, and All-State his senior year while being part of the 10-0 mythical state champs Broncos. He was also a 3-year member of the Jeff varsity basketball team, finishing the '67 season as state runner-ups. In his salute to his teammates, Mark noted that in his senior year at Jeff, they did not lose a conference game in football, basketball, or baseball. His best memory is all of my teammates in the '67 season and how badly we wanted to win. Secondly, last year's first Hall of Fame class. He said that was unbelievable, and it was. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Strader. Our next inductee, and also of the class of 1967, Dave Thake. Dave currently resides in Freeport, Illinois. Dave played 2 years for the Broncos. The only reason he played 2 is he didn't live here until then, and was a standout on the mound for both years. He was 17-1 for his career, 5-0 in 66, and 12-1 in 67. His only loss was a 1-0 game in the semi-state. He was all North Central Conference in his senior year and threw 1 no-hitter. In the record books, Dave is third in career ERA at .67. He is tied for 6th in season innings pitched at 89, tied for 5th in season wins at 12, and is third in season strikeouts at 139. Dave played 1 season of American Legion post-11 ball on the team that finished as state runner-up. After his senior year at Jeff, Dave's family moved to Northbrook, Illinois, where his Legion team won a state championship, a national regional championship, and finished as a national runner-up in the Legion World Series. Dave then went on and played 4 years at Bradley University and was honorable mention all-conference in his sophomore year. In both his junior and senior years, Dave was second-team all-conference. Dave worked as a teacher and coach for 7 years, 3 at Sunnyside Junior High School, and 4 at Northbrook K-8 district, where he coached track, basketball, football, and baseball. He has worked 30 years as an administrator, 14 as an assistant principal in South Beloit and Belvedere, and as high school principal at Belvedere and Freeport. His best memory is the 45-game winning streak over our junior and senior years, the teammates and friends I made, Coach Fields leveling the field with heavy equipment, and playing for Coach Fields, truly a Hall of Fame person. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Thake. These last 7 players that I introduced were all members of the Broncos from 65 through 67. For those 3 years, they were 68-10. During that period, they won 45 games in a row from the 66 season to the end of the 67 team. They were NCC champs as well. And as you can tell from their personal bios, the record books are full of their accomplishments. Like the 64 group, they were very good in the other sports too. Additionally, what was not mentioned, in their summer baseball careers, other than Legion, this group advanced to the National Regional in Pony All-Stars and to the divisional level in Colt All-Stars. Lastly, one could argue that they were the best Indiana high school team that did not win a state title. About a round of applause for the 67. Our next inductee is from the class of 1969, and that is Greg Benning. Greg currently resides in Bonita Springs, and I think is building a new home in Greenwood, Indiana. Greg was a 3-year letterman as a pitcher first baseman. He was a member of the 68 NCC champs and the 69 state champs. Greg was all-conference in both 68 and 69, as well as team co-captain. In his career, he threw 2 no-hitters and was part of a 3rd one. Greg was 19-6 as a pitcher in his career with a .86 ERA, which is tied for 8th best. Also in the record books are 10th best season of ERA at .44, tied for 7th in career innings at 171, tied for 9th in career wins at 19, 5th in season strikeouts at 136, and 2nd in career strikeouts with 284. Greg was also the winning pitcher in the 69 state championship game. He too played at all levels of Lafayette youth baseball and was an all-star at each level, and he too played for American Legion post-11. Greg was drafted and signed by the Chicago White Sox in 69 after the end of his high school season. And due to his shoulder injury, he was released in the fall of 1970. He has been married to Marcia for 40 years and has 2 children and 4 grandchildren. He has worked 25 years as a manufacturer's agent in the electric utility industry. He then worked another 15 years as a custom home designer / builder in Johnson and Marion counties. Greg has also coached youth baseball, football, and basketball in Greenwood. He also coached the Indiana Hawks travel baseball team from 95 through 98. His best memory of Jeff baseball. This is good because a lot of us have gone through this same situation. Pitching in a late inning game at Anderson, and after a visit to the mound by Coach Fields telling me first base was open, so don't give their best hitter anything to hit, the guy proceeds to hit one out on a low and away fastball. Coach then telling me in the car on the way home that we were the worst team he ever had. A month later, we were the state champs. Lastly, riding atop the fire truck, holding the first state champion trophy for Broncos baseball. Ladies and gentlemen, Greg Jefferson. Our last inductee, but not least, from the class of '69 is Mark Hacker. Mark was a 3-year letterman for the Broncos as a pitcher and outfielder. He was All-NCC and MVP of the team in both '68 and '69. He was 18-2 in his career with an ERA of 1.04. He threw 2 no-hitters and was part of the 3rd one. In the record books, he is tied for 9th with most innings in a season at 86, tied with 8th with most wins in a season at 11. His 7th was with most strikeouts in the season at 129, and his 7th for most strikeouts in a career with 215. In the morning game of the state finals against South Spencer, Mark pitched a 2-hitter and had 19 strikeouts in a 3-1 win. As a hitter, Hack was a .342 career hitter while leading the team in hitting in both '68 and '69. Mark played at all levels of Lafayette youth baseball and was an all-star at each level. He did play 2 years for Lafayette Post 11 and American Legion Baseball. Mark then enrolled on a baseball scholarship at IU in 1969. Mark is married to Celeste and has 3 children and 9 grandchildren. He is retired from being plant manager at Warren Industries. Mark was also a member of the Broncos football team for 2 years at center. And his best memory is winning the 1969 state championship. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Hacker. These last 2 guys that we've introduced were obviously on the '69 team and were obviously the leaders and instrumental in bringing home the first state championship for the baseball Broncos. With Hacker and Benning on the mound, the Broncos only allowed 4 runs in 9 games during the tournament run to the title. 4 runs in 9 games. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our 2016 second Jeff Baseball Hall of Fame class. One last thing. Several of these guys said to me, they requested that a single guy be up here to give them their award, their plaque. And we obviously thought that was a hell of an idea, and that was this guy. And this guy, with a few exceptions here, coached all of these guys. And I don't, you know, I said this last year, there's not a better coach in the history of the state of Indiana than this guy. Once again, thanks for coming. Now, if everybody wants to take pictures, we'll ask these guys to stay up here. So you're welcome to take group photos, individual photos, and then at 6 o'clock, we're all going to go over to Walt's Other Pub to celebrate a little in the room over there. So thanks for coming.